a couple of minutes here, so I'm just gonna. I think it's there's some stuff I need to update on the meme Taj, so we'll just take a look at it, and then we will get then we'll get into the whole today's show. We have a lot of stuff to cover, a lot of stuff to wrap up. Uh, I don't even really intend to do these. As I know I always say this, and it's kind of cringy, but I don't even intend to do these shows every week. It just happens that like insane shit constantly goes down, and I feel obligated to cover it. So, um, so that's that. Okay, I'm just gonna throw in some more memes. Uh, there's a Twitter account I follow. Why you should have a cat. They posted a bunch of good stuff today. There's like this new meme now that Prigozhin has been uh, izakai'd, which probably probably was true. If anyone would have been izakai'd, I still don't know if Prigozhin just showed up and he wasn't dead. I wouldn't be surprised. There is the Wagner video game. Yes, there is a Wagner video game, and it's coming out soon. I don't know when, but it'll probably come out before Stalker 2. So, I guess Russia wins again. Okay, let's just add some stuff in. We have some we have some fun stories to start off with. Let's see here. So this came out. So this is the official Italian mascot at the Italian World booth at the Italian World Expo. Italia Chan. I don't know. I think she's kind of cute, to be honest. Oh, look at her. She's adorable. Hey, Rain, do you want to take part in this show? She says no. I can't really blame her though for not wanting to deal with that. Uh-huh. Let's see here. I can never tell with this thing if it is actually like random or not. There's no real way to tell. I feel like a lot of stuff particularly like the newer stuff just never shows up. So but we'll see. We'll see. Okay. That's back when Rain was still a kitten. She's gotten a lot more chill with age. She's got a lot more cuddly than she used to be, so that's nice. But let's see here. Okay. So let's just start off with some of this stuff. Okay. So firstly, we have, and I'm gonna recover some stuff I covered on yesterday's show because I can. Now, before we get into that, I was debating. So I think what I'm going to do is this is just going to become my like regular show. I might not do it on a specific day or do it every week, but it'll be like a compilation of different news and like stuff that's going on and things that don't necessarily fit in individual videos. Kind of a roundup of sorts. I just need to come up with a some sort of a name for it. I can't keep calling it the UCU because I cover things other than the Ukraine. Because I cover things other than Ukraine, so I was trying to come up with other stuff. Like I could call it the Universal Cinematic Universe, or the, what were the ones I had? Unified Cinematic Universe, Ultimate Cinematic Universe. I could also do like the ACU, the Argent Cinematic Universe, or I could just do something like I could just come up with its own title. If I was going to have my own show, I'd probably just call it Infinity Will. Is probably what it would be called, but I don't know. I kind of like the whole cinematic universe thing. I just don't know if Argent Cinematic Universe is too cringy, although it's kind of the point that it's supposed to be cringy. I'll think about it. If I come up with a couple answers, then maybe I'll do a poll. But I digress. So, first off, we have some cool stuff from Biden. Biden is let's see here. Biden is maintaining that his uncle was eaten by cannibals. His uncle served during World War II in the Pacific. His plane went down near Papua New Guinea, and he claims he got eaten by cannibals. Now, the Navy says that is not what happened, or the Army says that's not what happened, and that his plane crashed and he died of drowning during the plane crash. And they said that Biden was making it up. And apparently Biden has doubled down and said, no, he was eaten by cannibals. So, as reconnaissance over war zones, he got shut down over in New Guinea. They never found his body because there are a lot of cannibals for real in that part of New Guinea. So, I don't know. There's also claims that it was, there were 3 men in it. It wasn't a single engine plane. And then, so Biden's just making it up. At least he's making up something cool, though. Now, my guess is that, his uncle's dead ghost, because Biden can talk to the other side. I mean, this has been confirmed. So I like to think that that's what's going on, that Biden is talking to a ghost. Okay. So before we get into the next story, I just want to do this because this is one of the most insane things I think I've seen in a while. This is the Estonian Defense Forces chief. I'll be honest, he at least looks like a Chad. This guy looks like a Chad. Okay, if Russia launches an attack on Estonia in the future, Estonia would certainly win, said General Martin Hiram, head of the Estonian Defense Forces. But the victory may still be ugly, he added. So we've gotten to this point. So we're not just saying that Ukraine is winning. We're saying Estonia is winning. His uncle is going to. Oh, sorry, not his uncle. I'm thinking of Biden now. Estonia can beat Russia in a war. That's how much Russia sucks. Is they're going to lose. He says, "Say you create whether to prepare or is not a question of knowledge but of decisions. If Estonia mobilized 43,000 soldiers, it would cost nearly 2 million euros a day. It's not a lot of money compared to what those people could know. What these people no longer produce. The Finns say that they mobilize 250,000. The country could be bankrupt in a month," he told his audience. Estonia does not need for NATO forces to arrive as they are already here. So yeah, it's just Estonia can beat Russia in a war. That's 100. That's that. Okay, so that is it's I'm gonna admit, guys, it's getting hard. It's getting hard some days, like when I'm doing the because I'm keeping track of like the RGs, and I have like I think 12 entries for worst take. Let me see here. Let me see. Let me just look at the document I have with the listings for worst take, because it's just it's gone kind of ridiculous, just how many bad ones there are. 1 second, it's just taking a while to open. Okay, so like let's just okay, so just can I just bring up a notepad? There we go. Okay. So like worst take is getting ridiculous. Like this is what we're up to for like worst take. We have like Russia's lost 90% of its military strength. We live in a free society, so we can't enforce laws. Russia is more dangerous than South Africa. Calgary being renamed the Blue Sky City. Not wanting slavery as a form of racism. Having sex with a dog doesn't mean you're into bestiality. Like, there's a lot. Like, I'm gonna have to do this show biannually. Also, just like some of this other stuff is like the Third World Award is also getting to be kind of ridiculous. But I already split worst take into like 3 categories. Like worst take is now in like 3 categories. Like we have biggest cope. That was what it was split up into. So we have like Macron's strategic ambiguity, Nikki Haley winning Washington D.C. The spring offensive failed because it was leaked. Like some of these could be the worst take, but I had to like rename them to the biggest to something else because it's so like. Yeah, like here I'll show you maybe just as kind of a peek what other, let's see what other stuff we have on the list. The biggest issue at the moment is I don't really have much for best take or some of the other stuff. Okay, biggest blowout. Putin telling Tucker he wasn't allowed into the CIA because he isn't serious. AI fiction pictures of thoughts. Biden escaping prosecution because he's senile. Nikki Haley losing to none of the above. And Scholz greeted by Deputy Mayor of Shangshong. Let's see here. I'm just going to be honest. Barbecue is probably going to win Gamer of the Year. I really can't see a scenario in which he loses at that. That's from Rolling Stone. That was from Rolling Stone. That Tucker having a Palestinian Christian on his show? Okay. Oh, right. Okay, I'll add that in. Let me just add that in. That's actually a good one. Tucker is nominated in a couple categories. Tucker is nominated for Cringe of the Year and Biggest W, which is a pretty big. So under cringe of the year, we have so far Boris Johnson's recruitment video, which honestly is is in first place. Nikki Haley's crying speech, Tucker at the Russian supermarket, Axe the Tax just thing in Canada, Rishi Sunak's breakdown over George Galloway winning, and Time Magazine's top 100. This actually, I actually kind of felt physically ill. And I'm not saying that as a joke. Just looking at the kind of creatures and space mutants and degenerates they put in their list, it actually kind of made me sick looking at a lot of those people. And I get that I'm overweight and stuff, but I don't think I look like a space mutant. I look like an overweight white dude. I don't look like some fucking abomination of humanity. Biggest W is going to be another hard one, because I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I think Tucker is probably the front runner. Oh, okay. Candace Owen quoting the Bible. Yeah, okay, that's a good one. Okay, thank you for that. Thank you. See, we're getting work done. We're getting stuff done. So as I said, I kind of want to do a show halfway through the year, because I kind of want to just clear out and have a show that's a list just for the wow, my brain is not working today. Just for the election season. Okay. All right, so let's get back to the stories for today. We have okay, where is that? So apparently in Africa, you thought that things couldn't get any worse than the literal gang coup that took over Haiti and released everyone for jail. Well, it can get worse. Okay. So Sierra Leone is having a national emergency over the drug Kush, made from human bones. Right. So Kush is a psychoactive blend of addictive substances. The president has called it a death trap and said it is an existential crisis. One of the drug's many ingredients is human bones. Security has been tightened in cemeteries to stop addicts from digging up skeletons from graves. What? Groups of young men sitting on street corners with limbs swollen by Kush abuse is a common sight in Sierra Leone. This just sums up Africa in a nutshell. With a bandage around his ankle, one recovering addict told the BBC that the drug has a tight grip on him. I don't like doing this, but I cannot leave it because I enjoy it, he said. He's like, look, I know it's a bad idea. So somebody was saying that this is a combination of fentanyl, marijuana, and something else mixed. And then they just, because they're from Sierra Leone, they mix in bone dust into it. Maybe the bone dust is the reason that, yeah, it's fentanyl and other opiates mixed together. I think it's also, somebody said it was cannabis as well. But they're whatever reason, they're grinding up bone and putting in it. I doubt that, is there even anything, in bone that's psychoactive? I get if they're taking the bones from bodies that are still decomposing, there's going to be some weird mold and, shit in that might trip you out. I guess there would still be, the, what's it called in the marrow? The marrow in it would be rotting, and the stuff on it it would cause neurological damage, and that might be it. Aren't bones just mostly calcium? I mean, that's something you feed to reptiles, isn't it? Like ground bones. Like you give them cuttlefish bones because it's basically calcium. I think the San Diego zoo diet is ground turkey, eggs, and bone meal. So, like, you probably could. Yeah, it could be prions like mad cow shit. Like, it's just most people would think that. Okay, so prions, yeah. Prion was always like my favorite. Well, one of my favorite ones to play as in Plague Inc. But yeah, there's no official death toll, but one doctor said that in recent months, hundreds of young men have died from organ failure. It says admissions linked to Kush have surged by 4,000% in the last 3 years. Uh, okay, the spike. Cemeteries requested police security to protect themselves from young men digging up skeletons. Ground up human bone is one of many ingredients used to make Kush, although it is not clear why. Well, the swollen. So did the limbs swell because of an allergic reaction, or because it's like necrotic, or is it just that it's getting stuck? Because I remember Wellbutrin or bupropion, people started injecting that in Canada, but because it's very a very viscous thing and it doesn't like you can't inject it very well, it just gets stuck in your veins. And people who would inject bupropion, they just have like these big white sores all over their skin for where the stuff wouldn't go in. I don't know. Our country is clearly faced with an existential threat due to the ravaging impact of drugs and substance abuse. Escalating fatalities. It is a crisis. Let's see here. Some like literal fucking zombie shit. So one hospital said 63% of the hospital's current patients were admitted with Kush-related problems. So it's the effect on the blood pressure cuts off the supply from the injection. Okay, that makes sense. So a majority of people at a hospital were from this shit. And this is Africa. This is like I'm pretty sure they don't have like clean drinking water in Africa, in Sierra Leone. So, like, the people getting hit by machetes, the malaria, the monkeypox, the 50 billion other diseases, things, the malnutrition, the crime, the drinking unclean polluted drinking water, that is less than 50% of the people at this hospital. That is how bad Kush is. That in countries with some of the highest death rates on Earth, it's still somehow worse than daily existence. That is something, all right. So, okay, so we're gonna start transitioning now. That was just a couple fun stories to start us off with. So, we had a vote at the UN. Was it yesterday? So, yesterday at the UN, there was a vote as to whether or not Palestine should be accepted into the UN as a full member with voting rights. And so the Security Council had a vote on it. Everybody except for Switzerland and UK voted for it, and the US vetoed it. So what I've heard is Biden was running G-Slaroffs behind the scenes, and he was trying to beg and threaten the other members of the Security Council to abstain. And the hope was that enough people would abstain that the U.S. could get away with just abstaining in this case, and that they wouldn't have to use their veto. But only the UK and Switzerland did it. So earmuff the kids. I think what probably happened is Biden's like, look, I'll go easy on you, Rishi. You don't have to veto it, but you have to abstain. So what I'm saying is You don't have to take it up the ass. You just have to give me a blowjob. That is, I think, what happened there. Why is Switzerland abstaining? I guess you could say Switzerland abstains because it's neutral. Why is Switzerland on the Security Council? Like, why is it on the Security Council? Why is it abstaining from a vote? I don't know. But they vetoed it. So let me see. Where is the responses to this? So this is some of the worst optics I think I've ever seen in my life. Regardless of how you feel about it, there's overwhelming support for Palestine being admitted as a UN member. We'll see some of the stuff the Israelis said. The Israelis continue to just go full gamer. Qatar said it was a deep failure. Egypt said deep regret. Is not consistent. Turkey said, well, everyone is on the side of Palestine. Unfortunately, America puts forward their stance again by standing by the side of Israel. We didn't expect anything different anyway. Oh, what was it? Erdogan said something really based. Okay. Erdogan said that, I think he said that Netanyahu's worse than Hitler. Yes, Erdogan said Netanyahu is worse than Hitler. I think he said that again recently. Oh, I kind of love Erdogan. He's not our guy. He's not my ally. But I wish we had Erdogan, as our leader, like a Christian version of him. Israel said it is out. So Israel just complained. Israel's foreign minister commended the. Is that commended or condemned? I guess it's commended the U.S. for vetoing the resolution, which he labeled a shameful proposal. Okay, I'm just gonna read the Israeli. Let me find it. Okay, we'll get that. There was somewhere where they had the full Israeli statement, and Israel just did what they always do and just went like as hard as they possibly could. No, that was not it. That was retaliatory strike. Yeah, so leak cables show that Biden was threatening people, trying to get to other nations to vote against it so that they wouldn't have to vote against it. And that is the that was the plan that they were going to go with. Let me try to find the statement that Israel made. Israel Statement Security Council vote. I'm just gonna see here. Blatant aggression. Just trying to find the Israel. Just trying to, because I thought they, Israel made a statement. Okay, here we go. The representative of Israel thanked the United States, in particular Darkside Brandon, for standing up for truth and morality in the face of hypocrisy in politics, calling the draft resolution destructive. He said the Palestinian Authority does not meet the basic criteria, has no authority over its territory, and supports terror. They don't have any authority over their territory because you're literally occupying it. He questioned how Palestinians could be peace-loving when they are paying terrorists to slaughter Israelis. None of their leaders condemned terrorism or the October 7th massacre. Oy vey, October 7th was another Shoah. It was worse than the Holocaust. Okay, so here's my question. Which is worse, January 6th or October 7th? Because they're both worse than the Holocaust. We know this to be true, but which one's worse? They call Hamas their brothers, he added, and they do not recognize Israel's right to exist as a Jewish state. He noted the Palestinian representative of the meeting did not represent Hamas, and in turn does not represent at least half of the Palestinian people. Most of you decided to reward Palestinian terror with a Palestinian state, he said. These votes will embody Palestinian rejectionism and make peace almost impossible. I pray the day will come when you understand the magnitude of the mistake you are making here. I pray you will understand before it's too late. And we didn't, yeah. Okay. Let me see if I can find this, this insane thing. Okay, so let's look at the reason why the U.S. said that they decided to veto it. So the U.S. has said that Palestinian statehood needs to take place in a comprehensive peace agreement that would permanently resolve the Israel-Palestine conflict. So as Alexander Macrons pointed out, let's think about this for a second. So if there's no peace treaty, a comprehensive peace treaty between Israel and Palestine, there can be no Palestinian state. So basically, Israel has a permanent veto. Has a permanent veto over the UN Security Council over Palestinian statehood. Is Israel ever going to make a deal with Palestine? No. Is Hamas ever going to make a deal with Israel? No. So basically, just never. President Biden has been clear that sustainable peace in the region can only be achieved through a two-state solution, with Israel's security guaranteed. So in order to come about with a two-state solution, we have to veto a resolution recognizing Palestinian statehood. So that's good. For example, there are unresolved questions into whether the applicant meets the criteria to be considered a state. Oh, that's a very Shlomo-ish way of looking at it. Okay, central focus. So yeah. So until Israel says it's okay, the Palestinians can't have a state. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Good job, U.S. I'm sure that is literally. I mean, are there any other countries in the world other than the U.S. and Israel who are against recognizing Palestine as a state? And I'm not even saying like my personal opinion. I just mean the optics of this are fucked, especially when it's been Biden's policy for like his entire presidency that he supports a two-state solution, and then he immediately vetoes this two-state solution. So that was Biden's 5-star day. Now Biden actually did something kind of interesting for once, so I'm going to give him credit. So apparently, according to the Times of Israel and the Financial Times, or no, this isn't the article, but I'll include a link. It's just it's behind a paywall. So what wound up happening is after Israel bombed the Iranian embassy, the U.S. did back-channel diplomacy with Oman and I think Qatar, and they basically like negotiated with Iran that Iran could do like a limited strike. So if Iran decided to fire a bunch of missiles, but telegraph it ahead of time and tell like Israel on the down low where they were going to shoot them, then that would be okay, and then they'd stop Israel from using atomics against Iran. And so they had like this behind the scenes thing, and now Israel struck back, and they just I think fired a couple of missiles, so it looks like it's over now. And Biden, I guess, did manage to prevent World War III. We'll see, though. We'll see how much this thing escalates. So he almost got out of that one, and then he committed himself to never recognizing Palestine as a statehood. So Iran made a massive, had a huge W. So their 300 drones and missiles cost the Israelis $1 billion. 1 to 1.3 billion dollars, or 5 billion shekels, to stop the weapons fired by Iran, which is less than 10% of what it costs Israel to stop it. Let's see here. So they add up to, okay, so yeah, an order of magnitude of 4 to 5 billion shekels. I love how it's literally called the shekel. So there we go. So that was like an almost W for Biden that he turned into a massive loss. But I'm going to say this, like, now I always want people to understand that when I criticize the U.S. for doing things like that, it's not even necessarily my opinion that Palestine should be recognized. I'm kind of indifferent to it. My point is that from like a realpolitik lens, being the only country on earth to be against Palestine statehood looks really bad, especially when Israel is going full gamer on Palestine and just blowing everything up. And the International Court of Justice basically is asked them to stop because South Africa is suing them for genocide. So, like, Israel made fun. I think Israel just told the International Court of Justice to go fuck itself. So that was good optics, too. This is good optics. Biden shilling for Israel. Where's Daddy getting exposed this week? I have no idea what that is. So I don't know. Israel's defense. So that was that's what happened. So we're gonna go to, and I'm gonna say the G word because I have to. A new gay op from Macron. Now Macron believes himself to be the master of the gay op. He has tried this many times. He's tried to do back-channel diplomacy with Putin. There was the time he tried to get to BRICS so he could talk to Putin privately. There was the most recent one where he got his defense minister to call Shoigu and try to come up with like a down low, like peace deal to freeze the conflict, and Shoigu told him to fuck off. Then there was the plan to deploy the like 30,000 French dudes to Ukraine and have the French dudes like stand outside of Odessa and basically just throw themselves in the way of Russian guns, and then use that as a way to trigger Article 9 or whatever it's called, so that they could start World War III. So those are a couple of him. Now, if you remember what happened, Macron said that they were going to put together an international coalition. He was going to... Article 5, thank you. Article 9 is Japan, I think. I get them mixed up. Anyways, yeah, Operation Human Shield was basically the plan. So Macron was like, we're going to get an army together. We're going to go into Ukraine and fight Russia. And then immediately the U.S. said no. Germany said no. Spain said no. Italy said no. Poland said no. Literally every country, I think other than maybe Czechia and like Estonia, was against it. And it looked completely humiliated. And then Macron's cope was that it was strategic ambiguity. It's like a strategic ambiguity. No one knows what I'm gonna do. And it's like, isn't the point of strategic ambiguity to not tell the other person it's strategic ambiguity? It's like you scam someone and you're like, I'm scamming you. So let's see here. So we have, okay. So, where are we? So France has banned Russian and Belarusian athletes from the Olympic Games opening ceremony. Now, so why is Belarus banned from the Olympics? Like, what is Belarus isn't even like doing anything. I guess they allowed Russia to use their territory to attack, but no, Belarus is just banned from the Olympics. Like, they just aren't allowed to take part because why not? Um, a new milestone. Okay, so International Olympic Committee. So Russia was previously banned from the Olympics for mass doping. So I don't know how true that is. I'd actually think that probably is true. My guess is I just don't know if Russia is the only country that has state-sponsored doping that's gotten called out. That's been called out on it. Um, I'm sure China does. I'm sure a lot of countries do. I like once again. I think Russia probably tried to do it. Probably, but they're like the only country I think to ever be banned for it. So they were allowed to march under the Russian Olympic Committee, and now that that's been banned, I think too. Define the pro will be allowed to compete for medals as individual neutral athletes on the podiums in place of the international place of the Russian and Belarusian flags and AIN flag. What is the AIN flag? Individual neutral athlete. This gay shit will be shown. And the AIN anthem without words will be played, produced specifically for this occasion. So this is fucking ritual humiliation. So they came up with this fucking awful looking flag, and they came up with, let's see how bad this anthem is. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. That's actually not that bad. It's okay. It's not the worst thing I'd ever heard. It sounds like something from a local news. I thought it was gonna be worse. So they can't play the Russian national anthem. They can't play the Belarusian national anthem. The Russian national anthem is, of course, probably the best national anthem in the world, at least in terms of its lyrics. But, like, how would you want this to be flying over your head? Individual neutral athlete. This looks like some State Department sponsored thing, or, you know what, this looks like some sort of gender identity. Yeah, they won't even let them use, the Olympic flag, I don't think. These measures are in line with the neutrality criteria the IOC established in December 2023 as conditions for the return of the banned athletes. These athletes must also not support or have supported the war in Ukraine. So they passed specifically for the war in Ukraine, not wars in general. So not like, so it's not war in general. So you can support war, you can support killing civilians, but you can't support the war in Ukraine. Oh, we'll get into that. No, we'll get into Israel's not banned. Israel is not banned, of course, from the Olympics. Let me see, where is this? Israel, they explicitly address this issue. Paris Olympic Games. Let's see here. Where is it? Okay, Israel was not banned from FIFA. Okay, let's see here. After banning Russia for the invasion of Ukraine, the International Olympic Committee has said that the situation in Israel is not comparable, but the IOC has said little else. Innocent members of the sports committee who have died. The Palestinian Football Association claims that more than 85 athletes have been killed in the last couple of months. So Israel can't isn't going to get kicked out of it. Now, once again, let us look at this. Civilian casualties, Ukraine. Let's see, how many civilians have died? Okay, that's killed and wounded. Okay, so according to the United Nations, about 10 to 11,000 civilians have died during the war in Ukraine. How many people has Israel killed? So it depends on how you want to count it. Some people see it's overestimated. Some people say that they say that there's more military is a higher percentage of this than people said. But I don't really think it's arguable at this point in time that the Israelis haven't killed more people than the Russians have. We also had stuff like this. Where is it? Where is it? Where they just gunned down? Yeah, here we go. Yeah, they just gunned down 100 people who were waiting in line for food. So that is okay. That's okay. That's fine. They could do that. Israel is literally like Israel could do that. They aren't going to get banned from it. Like, if they at least banned Israel as well, that would at least be consistent. Like, if the Olympics had a consistent record of banning people from the Olympics who were at war, that's fine. Like, that would be, I could respect that. But have they when have countries ever been banned from the Olympics? Let's see here. Countries banned from. We haven't even gone to the punchline. This whole thing gets like so much better. This whole thing gets so much better. You don't even know. Okay, why is Afghanistan banned from the Olympics? Okay, so South Africa was banned. Zimbabwe was banned. Let's see here. Germany was banned from 1948. Okay, the Central Powers were banned, so it's very rare. Like, South Africa's the only one that's been consistently took part in it. So yeah, so Russia has been banned. That is literally the only people who have ever been kicked out. Also, wasn't the country named Rhodesia? Okay, let's look at where's Daddy Israel. Okay, so let's see here. Let's see here. Like, it's so. Is there anybody in the world with like any degree of intellectual honesty who doesn't think that it's bullshit that Israel's not banned from the Olympics, but Russia is? Why is Belarus banned from the Olympics? That is the bigger question. No, but Zimbabwe was called Rhodesia before Mugabe took over. Uh, I'm pretty sure. Why is Belarus banned from Olympics? So Belarus is just banned. Um, like because it allowed Russia to use its territory to carry out attacks on Ukraine. Note that the U.S. was not banned when it invaded Iraq. It was not banned when it invaded Afghanistan. Iraq, okay, let's see here. So these were the only countries to ever be banned from the Olympics. So let's see who does not classify. Was Sudan ever banned from the Olympics? Uh, uh, no, Sudan was allowed to compete in the Olympics during the genocide. The Sudanese genocide was allowed to compete, even when there was an act of genocide going on. Let's see who else. Who else has been allowed to compete? Was the Khmer Rouge allowed to compete? Turned. The Khmer Republic, was that the Khmer Rouge? Or was that okay, Cambodia. I'm not sure if Pol Pot was in power at the time. But no, I don't think that they were banned from it. I think they just didn't participate. They weren't formally banned, I don't think. At least according to this. They were not kicked out of it. When was Pol Pot in power? I'm sorry, I'm just trying to make a point here. We'll get back to the rest of the show, I'm sorry. Pol Pot actually only died fairly recently. He only died in the late 90s. So he was the head of Cambodia from 63 to 81. So, yes, Cambodia took part in the Olympics while... is it just 45 to 75 to 79? Okay, I can't remember. Cambodia's had multiple civil wars and multiple regime changes, and Pol Pot was fighting in the jungle for a prolonged period of time. Is Myanmar banned from Olympics? No, Myanmar is not banned from the Olympics. Myanmar isn't. Was Pakistan banned from the Olympics when it was killing Bangladeshis? Is North Korea banned? I think North Korea is banned from the Olympics. Oh, because of COVID-19. Okay. So, yeah, North Korea is, but yeah. So Russia and Belarus are banned. So, let's see here. Okay. So we have some okay. So we brought up Macron for a reason. We have some This is one of the most schizo things I've ever seen. I actually kind of respect this in a way because it's so gay, it's so fake, it's so lame. So Macron is asking for an Olympic truce. Yes, Macron wants there to be an Olympic truce from the Olympics that Russia is banned from. Just think about this for a minute. Urge China to join his push for a movement of diplomatic peace during the Olympics. That they're banned from. What? Like, don't you use the... wouldn't it make more sense to say that unless you agree to a truce, then we're going to ban you from the Olympics? It's like... It's fucking schizo post. Like, it would have made more sense if Macron had have said... Sorry, it was hurting my brain. If it said, okay, Russia cannot participate, we will not allow Russia to participate unless they have a truce during the Olympics. That would have made sense. It still would have been hypocritical. It still would have been lame. But, like, I don't know. There's been some pretty bad takes. Like once again, we have... Once again, let's the ones that we have so far. Having sex with a dog doesn't mean you're into bestiality. We live in a free society, so we can't enforce laws. Russia is more dangerous than South Africa. Zelensky claiming that Western Russia is part of Ukraine. You can't criticize me because I'm the grandson of a Holocaust survivor. We have some bad ones. This is it's rough. As I said, the worst take category had to be divided up. I had to create the biggest cope category. Because some of these could be worst takes. The spring offensive failed because it was leaked. Could have been the worst take. So yeah. It's rough. It's rough. This might be nominated. You know what? This'll be for the G. Slurop Award. Let me see. Have I added it for the G. Slurop Award? Macron is half of them for this. Where is it? Despite Olympic truce, despite Russia being banned. I don't think I've shown these, so this is where we are on the G. Slurop Award. The Ukraine reparations bonds, the EU threatening to destroy Hungary, the synagogue tunnels, Macron's plan, Biden's plan to build the port in Gaza, buying the shells on the international arms market. That was one. Israel attacking the embassy to provoke Iran. It might be a couple. I mean, Macron, I think, is going to have to get a Lifetime Achievement Award this year. People have said that I should give Justo a second one, which maybe. Where was I? Okay. China's long-standing claims explicitly... Okay, sorry, we're going to have Pill Stream for a second. I just have a bit of a headache, so I'm just taking an Advil. That's what that is. It's not anything weirder than that. Okay. Okay. Russia and close ally Belarus have been barred from the Olympic Games over the invasion of Ukraine. So keep in mind, by Belarus being banned, they're saying that they're saying that Belarus is worse in terms of war crimes or human rights abuses than Israel. So, like, am I wrong? Is that an inaccurate? Is that an inaccurate reason? Like, uh, what has Belarus bombed Ukraine? Has it like killed anybody? It let it use its territory, which is what Saudi Arabia did during the Gulf War. That's it. That's their big thing against them. So Belarus letting them use their territory when the two countries are in a political union is somehow worse than Israel going full gamer and shooting people who are killing aid workers and shooting other stuff. So, okay. Should have been applied towards Israel, ones for consistency's sake, to avoid discrediting institutions by at least making it seem like there might be a new standard, not playing double standards, individually neutral athletes. That sounds like some gender category, doesn't it? Like male identifying woman or something like that. I don't think that I don't think China is very fond of this either. So this is Macron's plan. This is his brilliant fucking plan. To ban them from the Olympics and then ask for an Olympic truce when they're not allowed to participate. They're not sending their best. Okay, so we have the cannibals. We have some another. I don't know if Macron's behind this one, but this is like a running theme. Switzerland to host peace conference in June without Russia. This is like the fourth or fifth peace conference they've had where Russia hasn't been invited. This is like this is like the ongoing plan. Switzerland said on Wednesday would organize a high-level peace conference for Ukraine in mid-June, but without Russia, which promptly slammed the event as a U.S. orchestrated plot. Ukraine and up to 100 countries would attend at the luxury Birkenstock resort near the central city of Luzern. This is the first step to lasting peace. Switzerland hopes to include Russia in the peace talks. Spoke of a summit without Russian participation. Traditionally neutral Switzerland has from the start insisted that Moscow must be brought into the talks. It has been battling to attract China and other emerging powers. Swiss minister Sergei Lavrov in New York in January, he is the Russian foreign minister, to try to get him to come to the conference. Lavrov said that because Switzerland decided to sanction Russia at the start of this conflict, he's no longer going to consider Switzerland neutral. So we're gonna have the peace process without Russia. Said that U.S. has confirmed its participation. That China sounded positive. Joe Darkside Brandon's gonna go there. They're gonna negotiate with themselves. That's the new plan. So this is the they have that. We also have this. Scholz says he hasn't talked to Putin since December 2022. And that is okay. So I'm just gonna go off of my soapbox for a minute. So the thing that scares me the most about this entire crisis and everything that's going on is that people aren't talking to each other. Like they won't even speak to each other. Like Scholz won't talk to Putin. Like the third or like two of the probably top five most powerful countries in the world just aren't talking to each other. Like Biden's not talking to Putin. The UK's not talking to Putin. Macron's not talking to Putin. None of these people are talking. Like even during the Cold War, they were able to talk to each other. They didn't agree. They didn't always get deals done. But there's a certain common humanity that you establish when you have a negotiation, where you sit face to face with the other person. Maybe you talk about your kids. You talk about your favorite movies. You sit down and you establish a rapport with people. And maybe when you come to the crisis and the brink or something like that, if you knew the person personally and you kind of liked them, maybe that you even considered them a friend, that could be the difference between like a crisis and not. Like my understanding, and I can't recall off the top of my head, but Khrushchev and Kennedy sent letters to each other throughout their presidencies, throughout Kennedy's presidency, and they knew each other a little, and that was one of the major things that helped to stop the Cuban Missile Crisis, is they had some kind of understanding of each other. And once again, you sit down with someone, you find out that there is this common humanity, that like Russians love their kids too. They don't want nuclear war. And instead what they're doing is they're like, we're not even going to talk to them. We're not going to try to de-escalate. We're just going to like fucking keep going. It's insane. Like even, I'm pretty sure like Reagan talked to Gorbachev. I think he talked to Brezhnev. Like it's so insane that they won't even talk to these. Trump wouldn't he talk to North Korea? Like, you got to give him credit for that. Like, here's, as I said, talking to someone. Yeah, Nixon and Khrushchev had the kitchen table debate. That happened. Eisenhower was good friends with Zhukov, so they were able to kind of do some back channel diplomacy here and there. It's you still might have to crush your enemies. You might still have to beat them. You might hate them. You might say, oh, this guy's an asshole, I don't get along. But you at least have to put in the effort. You at least have to like try to talk to them, if for no other reason than optics. Like the optics of the optics of having a peace conference without Russia are just really bad. Can we all agree to that? Like, regardless of whether you support Russia or Ukraine, having this like unconditional surrender peace conference when they're getting when the conflict's losing just looks really bad. So yeah, he's saying he refuses to talk to Putin. Scholz has said he will only talk to Putin if Putin withdraws from Ukraine, so he's never going to talk to Putin. So that's another world leader who's never going to talk to him. It always reminds me, I don't know if any of you watch Kitchen Nightmares, but something that Gordon Ramsay always happens is if they're in the kitchen and no one's talking to each other and no one's communicating, he starts to get really fucking scared. About that. Oh no, everyone hates Netanyahu. But like Putin is not an unreasonable guy. Like at this point it's going to be fucking difficult because he thinks that everybody in the West is a snake and snaked on him, which is largely true. I mean, Putin you could say is a snake too, but my point is like it looks really bad. When you're not willing to put in the effort of even trying. Last time I worked at a kitchen, the boss wouldn't let people talk. Yeah. Well, it's more like they won't say like, oh, I'm getting like this dish ready or something. It's going to come up in 2 minutes or something like that. Okay, so Scholz says he will not talk to Putin. Okay, so we've got through that. Now let us look at some snakening stuff. So here's kind of the bigger articles we're going to go through in a bit more detail. Um, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's they don't want to humanize them, and by refusing to talk to Russia, they can demonize them. They can say Putin is Putler, he's evil, he's Satan reincarnated. Because like if stuff like the Tucker interview has, and you actually like get to know him a bit, and you get to know Lavrov and some of these other people, you realize that ultimately, like, people are people. I'm sorry if that makes me sound like a liberal or a globalist or something, but people are people. They have families. They have to eat. They want not necessarily the exact same things, but you can find some kind of common ground as like another human being. At least that's what I think. I don't know. Maybe I'm going too far liberal at this point or something. I'm just trying to like be. Despite my cynicism, I do have a strong humanist streak in me. I used to be very anti-humanist until I became a Christian, and then I became a lot more compassionate towards other people. So Hollywood has joined politicians in D.C. in demanding that Congress take... This is from Fox News. The Ukraine war is lost, but Hollywood and D.C. don't know it. Hollywood and D.C. Ignore the fact that the Russian army is bigger than when the war began, and Ukraine can't keep up. And just while we're talking about common humanity, I just want to say this this once more. My heart breaks for the Ukrainian army. The Ukrainian army has shown themselves to be, I think, more brave and more tenacious and more willing to sacrifice for their cause than anyone could have expected. When you have all these like shitty third world countries that just collapse when they fight against America or whatever, or stuff like that, the Ukrainian army has done more than I think literally anybody could have possibly expected them to do. And I think if they lose at this point, there's no shame in losing to a superior foe if you put up a fight. No one, I think, can say that the Ukrainians were pussies. No one can say that they didn't try their best. But you have like, sorry, I'm actually tearing up a bit. It's just, it kind of bothers me. But you have like this piece of shit, Lindsey Graham, who, and like you have these guys in the U.S. who are like, we have to keep the war going because they. It's good for American economy because the weapons that we're giving Ukraine are produced by the MIC. So we have to keep this war going. We have to keep like tens or hundreds of thousands of people dying. And the argument is so that they can give money to Boeing. Like, is that an unfair way of putting it? Like, J.D. Vance wrote that. He said it's fucked. Like, he did a big article in the New York Times. He said this attitude is just fucked. Like, that we have to keep this war going and have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of brave Ukrainians die. Like, and these aren't even professional soldiers. These are just guys who were kidnapped off the street. They received virtually no training, and they're just thrown into battle against a well-armed, well-equipped Russian army. And we just have to keep it going. And then you have psychopaths like Lindsey Graham, who are like, oh, it's killing Russians. Like, so we're just going to sacrifice the entirety of Ukraine to do it. Like, guys, you've lost. It's time to come to terms. It's time to surrender. Like, it's just, there's no way forward at this point. You were never going to get Crimea back. You were never going to get Donetsk and Luhansk back. We could have at least gotten something, but no, it's over now. And the question is, are we going to keep this going for another 6 months to a year or something like this? Um, well, also the Ukrainian armies, like, I might think that in a sense they are fighting for like America's like global homo and stuff like that indirectly, but I think probably the average Ukrainian soldier, they think they're fighting for the motherland, and I can't begrudge them that. Now, pieces of shit like Zelensky and Zelensky and Sersky and all these fucking assholes um, are just like, once again, the whole Ukraine cinematic universe thing, a big part of it is that these people are psychopaths. Like Lindsey Graham thinks that this is like an RTS. Zelensky thinks this is a fucking movie. And tens of thousands of Ukrainians are just dying because of this. And the thing is, you can complain about Russia and you can say this is all Russia's fault, and maybe it is, but Russia's their enemy. Like, getting stabbed by your enemy is one thing. Getting stabbed and gaslit and fucked over by people who you think are your friends is way worse. Sorry to get on my soapbox. I was reading that JD Vance article the other day, and it was just that hit really hard because I hadn't even really thought about that. It's like they're saying that about Israel. Like, we have to enable Israel to kill Palestinians because Israel and Palestine, like, we have to give the Israelis more weapons so they can kill Palestinians so that the MIC can make money. Like what kind of fucked up way of looking at the world is that? Okay, sorry, I'll get back to this. Okay. So, what do the Hollywood stars see? First, Ukraine lacks the soldiers to win. Kiev has lost at least 70,000 killed. They didn't, though. Like, Zelensky said, once again, Zelensky said, and this is BBC, 31,000 Ukrainians have died. Why do they need to mobilize? Why is there a manpower shortage if basically no one's dead? It's way more than this. It's like 300,000 or 400,000 at this point in time. The Ukrainian commander of the Joint Forces said on April 11th there are 7 to 10 times more Russian soldiers than there are Ukrainians on the battlefield. So, okay, Zelensky, million man army. So Zelensky, I think, Zelensky claimed that there was a million soldiers in the army. That the Ukrainian army was about 1 million people, and that Russia has a smaller army. But now we're saying that, like, Russia has a 7 to 10 to 1 advantage. Like, it's just like the schizo nature of this. Like, I just disprove. It says here 7 to 10 to 1, but Zelensky said like a month ago, this was in late Jan, that they had a larger army. So how can it be they both have, even if they both had the same number? Like, it doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even make sense. They lack an upward of 500,000 soldiers to keep up the fight. To be fair, Ukraine's parliament had understood the crisis. They recently adopted a law to increase conscription, but it's deeply unpopular among the Ukrainian people. Like, all it is doing is it lowered the age. It's sending more young people to die. Ukraine is in a demographic death spiral, so they're going to send the last of their young men, the people in their 20s, the people who are going to build the next generation. The last hope for the next Ukrainian generation are just going to be thrown into battle. And once again, it was one thing if these guys were going to get proper training and proper equipment, but like psychos like Sersky are just going to throw them into battle. But that's no longer relevant. The Pentagon says that Moscow has already recovered from its previous losses, and their overall force is 50% larger than when the invasion began. It's more than that, which makes up the second reason why 90% of Europeans think the war is lost. As one of Kiev's top military officers told Politico recently, Ukraine can't produce what they need for the battlefield, neither can the US nor Europe. In fact, there is no magic weapon that'll solve Ukraine's lack of manpower. Nevertheless, the Russian war machine continues to churn out a shocking amount of war material, either on their own or with the help of China. So that's the new cope that we're getting now. The new cope we're getting now is that China did everything. They're losing to China. Now, I would not be surprised if a lot of Ukrainians after this war hated America and Europe more than they hated Russia. Because once again, if being stabbed by your opponent in what is mostly a fair fight is one thing. Being stabbed in the back by like psychopaths like Lindsey Graham. And I don't know if you guys saw what this $61 billion for Ukraine, they're converting it into a fucking loan. Like that was the Republicans' big plan. It's going to be a loan now. It's going to be like what, a $30 billion loan. Ukraine can't pay that back. Ukraine will never be able to pay that back. So that's like the new plan. If Ukraine survives, it'll be a debt slave. It'll be a debt slave to the U.S. Unfortunately for the West and their propaganda efforts, the Russian people largely view this war as one where NATO are the aggressors, and they mostly support Putin's plans to stop them. So there's a guy on YouTube, what's his name again? Daniel Davis? Is that his name? Daniel Davis? Yes, Daniel Davis. So he's an ex-CIA officer. He worked for the CIA for a long period of time. So the U.S., I think they had 12 bases in Ukraine. The CIA did. He said he'd never heard of, I think it was more than 3 or 4. I think he said 3 or 4 bases in a country was considered to be a massive number of, is like he couldn't even comprehend how many there was. So they were turning it into a suit like a weapon against Russia. To include his government, people in the government and military are stealing like there's no tomorrow. Increasing number of Ukrainians think that the war's lost as well. 42% of Ukrainians say they're willing to negotiate a peace with Russia. And frankly, the 42% are right. The outlines for a deal are still on the table. They were being negotiated back in 2022 before Western powers scuttled them to advance Joe Biden's stated goal of regime change in Moscow. Guys, this is Fox News. Like, I think you have to understand this. This is not like Russia Today. This is not like Al Jazeera. This is Fox News. And they're admitting, like right here, there was no peace agreement because Boris Johnson screwed them. Because Biden wanted regime change. 90% of Europeans understand. So that's what Fox News has to say. And like once again, Fox News is hardly like a pro-Russia news channel. So Politico, Ukraine is heading for defeat. The West's failure to send weapons to Kiev is helping Putin win the war. Just ask a Ukrainian soldier if he still believes the West will stand by Kiev for as long as it takes. The pledge rings hollow when it's been 4 weeks since your artillery unit last had a shell to fire, as one serviceman complained from the front lines. Like, how are the Ukrainian soldiers supposed to fight under these conditions? They could be the bravest, most skilled, like, soldiers. Each of them could have, like, 20 years of training. They could be like the Spartans, modern Spartans. How are they supposed to fight with no shells? how are you supposed to fight a war that is a conventional war that involves a lot of trench warfare or just slow advances through urban areas without artillery? It's not just the Ukrainian forces are running out of ammunition. Western delays over sending aid mean the country is desperately short of something even harder to supply than shells. The fighting spirit required to win. Once again, as I've said at the start of this at this conflict, you know what? It would have sucked to have lost Crimea, Donetsk, and Luhansk. It would have sucked to lose those, but sometimes you got to live to die another day, as James Bond would put it. Let's just pull that clip up just for a little bit of levity. Where is it?
So you live to die another day. Colonel.
Sometimes you gotta live to die another day. Political leaders and citizens was one of a country slipping towards disaster. By the way, Late Night with the Devil is apparently on streaming services. I'd recommend watching it. Really good movie. I really enjoyed it. I think it's important to support like actual independent or actual small budget films that are good and aren't just shitty art movies. Even as President Vladimir Zelensky says Ukraine is fighting a way to not to retreat, military officers accepted that moral losses are inevitable this summer. The only question is how bad they will be. Vladimir Putin has never been closer to his goal. We know people are flagging. We hear it from regional governors who are maintaining control through fear and from the people themselves. Yermak Zelensky's... No, it's not. I'm gonna go see, I think, the Spy Family movie tomorrow. It's playing nearby me, so I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go see it. I'm actually somewhat excited. I haven't looked up anything about it. I know I haven't reviewed Spy X Family yet, but Spy X Family is awesome, and I'm looking forward to seeing the movie. Yermak, powerful chief of staff, told Politico, Yermak and his boss traveled together to some of the most dangerous places to rally citizens and soldiers for the fight, he said. We tell people your name will be in the history books. But it won't. Zelensky's name will be in the history books. Sersky's illusions, well, just the random dudes that they plucked off the street and threw into battle, no one will remember them as individuals. Now, as Freerin has pointed out, and I'm going to do a review of Freerin, that's also on the list. In time, all things fade. In time, regardless of whatever else happens, you will be forgotten. Everybody, the society you serve in will be forgotten, but even so. Okay. Had left. Zverk was, yes, I do. He said in an interview an hour after Zelensky laid out the stakes, saying Ukraine will lose the war if the U.S. Congress does not step up and supply aid. Well, keep in mind, the U.S. has given Ukraine something like, what was it? Okay, so I'm sorry for repeating myself, but I just have to say this stuff. With regards to Zelensky saying the Ukrainian army was 800,000 or they lost 31,000, there was no expectation. Well, maybe there was an expectation because these people are actually retarded, but why did he say that? He could have just said, like, I'm not going to reveal our military figures or our losses because that's confidential information and it would be dumb to give out that info. Like, that seems reasonable to me. It's just say, look, I'm not going to tell you guys. I'm not going to publicly release confidential information and make it easier for Russia. And he could have said the Ukrainian people have made immense sacrifices for their country. And he could have just said that. And I would have respected that. I would have said that is a perfectly probably the sensible thing to do is to not open your mouth. But saying 31,000 is such an insult. It's an insult to my intelligence. It's an insult to your intelligence. It's an insult to the Ukrainians who died. Without a major step. Also, somebody made another point. Have we seen a single video of the human wave tactics that Russia's doing? Could someone in the chat maybe put maybe there's like one of Wagner charging, but have we seen like footage of these human wave tactics like being widely used across the front? Like, you'd think with all the drones and the GoPros and all the other stuff, this would just be something you'd have. I guess like they'll say like when Russia attacks and they lose, that's human wave tactics, like, or something like that. But I just don't like. It's a good point. I haven't seen it. Maybe there is. And the whole shovel thing was like Wagner had teams of sappers who ran forward to dig trenches when they took a position. Is my understanding of what happened. They had guys who were ready to go up and start digging. I don't get why that's such an insane thing to do. Also, most soldiers carry shovels. And most soldiers use shovels as I think the U.S. does, use entrenching tools as weapons because they're bladed shovels and they're pretty good at killing people. It's not rocket science. Putin claimed victory at home, and emboldened by Western weakness, he may revigorate his wider imperial ambitions abroad. Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia are especially fearful they are next on his list. No, they aren't. We just saw it. The head of the Estonian army said he'd win. Like, what? Like, we just saw that a second ago, right? Like, I'm not hallucinating. The Estonian guy said he was going to beat Putin. Also, those countries are in NATO. Putin doesn't want a war with NATO. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but Ukraine says it needs at least 24 Patriot air defense systems. How much is an air defense system? Like, let's see here. Let me see here. Deadliest warrior entrenching tool. Deadliest warrior entrenching tool. Yeah, like here. U.S. Special Forces. Yeah, it's like the U.S. Special... Yeah, it's most... Well, shovels are just useful. You can dig. You can dig holes. That was actually a big thing during World War I, is German soldiers carried spades, which were not really big enough, but they were able, but like it was at least something. The Germans could at least dig some sort of holes. I don't know. It's so fucking stupid. It's like the whole cope cage thing. Look at that. Look at the cope cage right there. Wow, there's spaced armor and slat armor doesn't exist. Okay. Fear among the Russians may target Ukraine's second city for a ground offensive soon. It's symbolic because they say Kharkov was the first capital of Ukraine. It's a big target. Zelensky said in an interview with Politico's parent company. Ukraine's military is braced for more losses in the coming months. Sersky has warned that the situation on Ukraine's eastern front has significantly deteriorated in recent days. We're trying to find some way to not retreat. Well, I mean, sometimes you have to retreat. Sometimes you have to. Knocking out Ukraine's electricity network. But, once again, Russia running out of missiles. Okay. This is from November. Russia's switching war strategy as missiles run out. I thought missiles were out. Like it literally says right here, Russia is out of missiles. February. What the fuck? This is from 2024? What? Now, also, sorry, just to just this is not really related. I just find this interesting. Improvised armor. So, it is very common for soldiers of any army to put extra army on, to up armor their tanks. So as we can see here, we have Shermans from World War II and Tigers and stuff like that. And what they will do is they will put tracks on the side of the tank, or sandbags, or in this case a cope cage. And does it work? Generally, no. Is it like it probably just overloads the engine, as none of this stuff is really supposed to try to it's not designed to stop that, but that's just something soldiers do. And they've always done that, and you can understand why. If you're getting shot at, if you're getting shot at, then you might, like, if you're going to take your chances, you'd probably want the extra sandbag. Also, like, people make fun of the zero gravity pen. At least they invented a cool pen. Like, I wish like we could invent shit like that. Like, if my tax dollars were going to make zero G pens as opposed to gassing disabled people, I'd be okay with that. Fuck. Yeah. So they're out of missiles. Russia's out of missiles, and this was from February, and this is BBC. Okay. So several. Okay. Let's see here. Now, once again, okay, so even if Ukraine was going to, and I'm not, keep in mind, I'm not making fun of the soldiers. So the purpose of the cope cage is for suicide drones. So suicide drones, to my understanding, don't have a very large warhead, but because tanks don't have much roof armor, if they smash into the top of it, they can do a lot of damage. So what this does is the drone will hit this and explode, and it'll take this off, but it'll mean that the drone's not exploding directly against the tank. See how heat rounds work? I'm not sure if drones use heat rounds or not, but they hit the armor, and then there's a reaction, and it forms like a jet of a plasma or liquid hot gas or whatever, and it bores like a hole through the armor, and if it explodes beforehand, it disperses the blast. So it will. Yeah, it disperses a lot of the blast beforehand. I'm sorry, this is completely side note. I just find stuff like that really interesting. Depend on the type of the drone. Yeah, let me see your kamikaze drone. You know what? We'll just take a side trip because this is interesting. Kamikaze drone. So you see this these footage. So that is like a kamikaze drone. You get a lot of footage of this being released. It's kind of morbid, to be honest. Let me see. And then that's hitting a tank. So, oh no, that's the mass Russian surrender. So if you look at the war, you'll see a lot of videos like that. Okay. The fears about the fragility of the front lines are only compounded by unprecedented. Okay, so yeah. The mood in the senior military ranks is even darker. Several senior officers talked to Politico only under the understanding that it was anonymous. They painted a grim forecast of front lines potentially collapsing this summer when Russia, with greater weight of numbers and readiness to accept huge casualties. Have we seen any evidence for this? That Russia's going to accept huge casualties? Sorry if I sometimes do side notes for this, but I find like a lot of the the science of it, and so something I've always found interesting, and let's get straight for a side note, is why people do things. Is you'll see weird things like this, and you'll be like, what is the thought process behind this? And is there a reason for it, and does that reason actually make sense? And I know when I started learning about history and I started reading about stuff from people in the medieval period and the Renaissance period, and stuff like that, I started to realize that like people were a lot smarter than you give them credit for. Like, sorry for going on a bunch of field trips. So plague doctors, the thing they wore was a tight-fitting leather garment that was dipped in wax. So they would wear this, and this would be completely impermeable. So, I mean, that's that's not bad by any means. That is leather dipped in wax. So that provides protection. The mask at least protects you from water droplets. Now, plague doctors would also use canes to move people around. It's not as good as a gas mask, but it's something. It at least provides a barrier between you and the person. Now, plague doctors had sticks that they carried, and they would use the sticks to manipulate people. Cane. Cane. The canes were used to point out areas needing attention, were used to examine patients without touching them. So, like, once again, it's hard for it's not bad. Wax to protect from the liquid, yeah. It's at least impermeable. Like, it's stuff can't get through it. I don't think they understood exactly how it worked. The garments covered the body, shielding against splattered blood, lymph and cough droplets. The wax robe. Okay, so the wax protected from fleas. Okay, so that was part of the reason. So it's like, it looks goofy, and we make fun of it and stuff like that, but like, that's not, like, none of this is stupid. Like, this is way better than nothing. Like, having, like, full-length leather boots. There's not really gloves. There's not really anywhere where they're directly in contact with the plague. So, like, people back then had a miasma theory, wherein there was noxious air would come off of sick people. That it was like a bad air, and that it was evil air, and that would transfer disease. So, like, the people understood how disease, like, people aren't retarded. Like, if there's a person who's sick and they start coughing and the people around them get sick, they figure that shit out pretty quick. It's rudimentary PPE. So it's, my point is, like, a lot of people make fun of this, and they say, oh, these people are retarded, they didn't know what they were doing, but, like, it's far from, like them being stupid. Also, it's another one, copper pots. Copper pots, clean water. So, copper pots. So, copper kills invertebrates. It kills bacteria. It kills parasites. It kills stuff like that. And they figured this out pretty early. Let's see. Ancient Egypt copper pots. Yeah, natural water for purification. So the Egyptians figured this shit out. They're not stupid. Copper. Yeah, so the Egyptians put water in copper because it killed the bacteria. Now they didn't understand the ins and outs of germ theory, but people aren't dumb. Like they can put two and two together. That's interesting. The Aztecs used a copper solution as a gargle for sore throats. Let's see. Diluted form nose drops were used to clear the head. So yeah, my point is this complete side track, but I just found that interesting. It's I think it helps you a lot when you're looking at history to get rid of the narrative that these people were stupid. Their understanding of the ins and outs of these things was not correct. But the idea that people who are sick leak a gas that can infect you is not really that like far off from the truth. That's not an inaccurate. Mechanically, it's not inaccurate. Yeah, copper would kept sea life off the ship. Sorry, I just find that interesting. Let's see here. So perhaps worse, they expressed private fears that Ukraine's unresolved will weaken. Let's see. So they need another 500,000. Young Ukrainians are dodging the draft. Where recent opinion polls suggested large numbers would refuse to be conscripted even if their nation was under attack. Ukraine is a country at war. An existential fight like this can't be won without mobilizing the entire nation. But you have a lot of people who have just run away from problem, or running away. Because I mean, why would they want to fight at this point in time? All the patriots they signed up in like 2022 or beforehand, they're dead now. A lot of them are just military age men, and they're buying their way out of the crisis. So I just want to end, and we watched this the other day, but we're gonna watch something on. This is kind of interesting. So this is from Mariupol, which is in Donetsk. I think it's Donetsk. Yeah. And they were showing. Let me see this thing. Russia erasing war crimes. Mariupol. This is one of like the biggest culp I've ever seen in my life. In occupied Mariupol, Russia's rebuild is erasing Ukrainian identity and any evidence of war crimes. Yeah. Also, garlic. Also, I think if people were sick, they'd feed them garlic. Keep in mind, garlic is kind of a fantastical food. Garlic is an antibiotic, an antiviral, and an antiparasitical. I think you could even use it as a disinfectant. So it probably, I don't know how much of that you get if you eat it, but it's not a bad idea. There is actually something logically to that. Some people to this day take garlic pills. Russia's rebuild is erasing Ukrainian identity in any place of work. So they're just complaining that they're rebuilding this stuff. But I just wanted to show you the apartments. So this is these are the apartment buildings that Russia rebuilt in Mariupol. So he did a documentary, and I recommend watching it. I'll paste a link to it in the chat. There we go. So this is a guy from Mariupol. He was there. He was there beforehand, and this is just him looking at beforehand. He, I think, was not pro-Russia, but the experience of the war. So he talked about like how he grew up and he talked a lot about like what they were saying about how they were repressing the Russian language and like destroying Russian culture in these regions was accurate. So these buildings look like the architectural style is shit, but that's what it looked like beforehand. Like, let's see what Mariupol looked like beforehand. Yeah, so yeah, it looks a lot better. Like, yeah, it looked pretty shit before. There we go. So this stuff was all built. So after Russia took Mariupol, it was pretty miserable. Most of the city had been destroyed, so they rapidly built these things. That's probably part of the reason they look like such shit. I'm just trying to find the. He had some video of them actually building the things. They put these up in a couple months. So, I mean, are they... These things are probably going to have trouble later on. I'm not going to pretend that these aren't, like, the highest quality things, but I just thought it was interesting. I'm just trying to see if I can find his... It was really cool how they were building these. With the, like, the component parts. Okay, maybe it was in a different video. I could just be forgetting, but yeah, they put up a lot of these buildings really really quick in the aftermath of it to try to get people somewhere to stay. Maybe this was it. This was the part. So I'm just trying to find. Okay, maybe it was in a different video of his, but yeah. So this is kind of cool. So this is he did a video showing what the new apartments look like. Honestly, especially for something that was built in, these were built in 2 months, I think 2 or 3 months. So they architecturally look like shit. I'm not gonna lie. Um, and that is not the best. Keep in mind, though, Russia's not exactly like a wealthy country, and this is, I think, meant to be temporary. And I think if your apartment got destroyed, they give you one. I'm not sure if everyone's gotten them yet or not, but they built these pretty quick. So these are not going to be like the fanciest things in the world. But I just thought it was kind of cool because I'm looking for a house. I'm looking to buy a condo at some point, so I'm looking at what's available. And frankly, these look better than like a lot of things we're seeing. So there we go. They're in a room. I mean, it looks fine to me. It looks pretty nice. Like the rooms aren't huge. That's about the size of my bedroom, to be honest. I have a queen size bed, so it takes up a lot of space. That's like a living room, I guess. There's the kitchen. It's not a big table, but you got a stove, you got a fridge, got a sink, it's a decent sized balcony. I mean, honestly, this doesn't seem that bad, especially for something that. Because I think there are people who were shitting on this and say, just like, the stove is a bit small, but once again, I don't know what it's like culturally. Some things are just going to be different because of where you are in the world. So I'm sure these things are going to have lots of problems in a couple of years because they were so hastily put up. But like, this doesn't look bad. So this is something they do in countries other than North America. They have the toilet in a separate room than the bathtub, which I guess makes sense. Yeah, so these were given out to people if their old apartment got destroyed, which is probably an upgrade. So once again, it's very bare bones. It's very kind of basic, but I mean, it's clean. The idea of having your own washing machine in an apartment is weird to me. Um, like, honestly, these don't look bad at all. Like, something like this would probably be, um, something like this would probably be like 150 to 200,000. So where I live now, this would probably be about $150,000 Canadian. In Toronto, this would be like 500 or 600,000 dollars. So Russia's rebuilding Mariupol. Mariupol was industrial, but Russia kind of wants to make it into a resort city because Russians love the ocean, and Mariupol's on the ocean, and it's really nice. But so I don't know. I don't think this is anywhere near as bad as North Korea. It's just very. Once again, is it great? No, but it's definitely like impressive for the amount of time that it took to build. Uh, I mean, hopefully that Russia will rebuild the rest of the country like this. I mean, it's kind of you break it, you bought it, but like ultimately, um, I think they built completely new infrastructure. Now, obviously, like I said, a lot of this stuff is probably going to have trouble in a couple of years because it's rapidly built. But pretty much all of it looks way better than what was there before. Like, it's boring. It kind of looks like shit, but it's not like rotting and decayed and falling apart. So this is the new clinic. They're building new stuff along the ocean. Honestly, I think this would be a good investment opportunity, to be honest. If you wanted to buy some land in Mariupol, because my understanding is it's a steal at the moment, but and I'm sure it's going to be worth a lot of money soon. But I just found this really interesting because there's so few things from inside the recently annexed parts of the city that I hadn't really thought about it. I like the Russian waifu. I'll say that much. I like that. Russian street art. Like honestly, for a country as poor as Russia, it's not bad. They got German companies are helping to build this, and they're like the German companies got in big shit. They're like, you're building buildings for you're building buildings for oh by the way, that's a QT. I fully support having like Russian blonde QT. Literally girl in a wheat field on the side of your building. That's based. That's based. Yeah, like they have this fucking weird architectural style, and they have really weird colors. I don't particularly like it, but it's way nicer than what was there before. So I'm not trying to justify like Russia's invasion or them blowing it up or anything like that, but this doesn't look bad. It's just kind of interesting comparing like what I see where I live, because I live in a shitty part of Canada, like one of the shittiest parts of Canada. And a lot of the stuff I see in this is like that. This was a funny one. Why does Russia look so depressing? Okay, I find we're just gonna watch part of this.
Your Russian made from Russia, and welcome to autumn. It's the beginning of November. Right now, about -1 Celsius or about 30.
So I find this hilarious, to be honest, as a Canadian, because it's people always say like it looks depressing, and it is literally like how it is there. Like this it looks kind of dark and depressing. It's just kind of how like northern countries look in the winter, like just with all the trees being having lost their leaves. Yeah, like he's comparing summer to winter. Like just all the leaves are off the trees. It looks like a graveyard. There's leaves all over the ground. Everything is like wet and damp. That's just what it's like living in a cold country. I think where I live is basically the same weather, the same climate as Moscow. It's I think almost identical. Um, yeah, like looks a lot like where I live. I just thought it was funny as someone from Canada, just because this looks so much like where I live. Like it just looks gray and depressing, and I just never really thought of it before. Actually, this looks literally like across the street from where I live. Yeah, like that adds a brown dark to it. But it greens out quite a bit. I don't know. I just thought that was funny. Actually, this looks a lot like Toronto, to be honest. This architectural style parks, city parks like this. Um, I mean, this looks a lot like what I'm used to. It's just interesting because, like, I'm glad that there are some people who are making stuff like this, because I really had no idea what it was like. I live in a part of Toronto with far ugly, but yeah, would you agree with me, GSP, that like it looks like Canada basically just looks like that during the autumn and winter? I don't know. And then you just will have these random underdeveloped places like this that are just being constructed. But I know we're like way off topic. It was kind of another interesting one was I was kind of interested to see what it looked like in some grocery stores in Russian villages. Because I mean, obviously Moscow and St. Petersburg are going to be nice, but this is in a Russian village, so I thought this was kind of cool. Um, they go to a local store. Like honestly, okay, it looks like shit from the outside. Although buildings in local, like in small villages, always looks like that. Like buildings in small towns in rural Canada look like that. That's hardly like a surprising or unique. Um, to be honest, I mean, it looks like a pretty normal grocery store. To be honest, I was kind of surprised actually. Like, you know what? It looks almost exactly like a convenience store down the street from where I live. Yeah, and there they also have a deli. I sometimes get jerky from there. They have a deli. They have yeah, all that kind of stuff, instant food. Um, I just thought it was kind of neat just to see what it looked like outside of Moscow. But it looks almost. I mean, if this was in Canada, It looks like I went to White Shell out in some of the national parks. It looks pretty normal. Um, and this is provincial Russia. Like, so what's interesting is so in Russia, stores don't sell vegetables, generally speaking. Uh, there's a couple, but most people in Russia grow their own vegetables. Either they have a garden in their backyard or they grow it at their dacha. So vegetables are widely available in Russia. They just don't like. Actually, it's kind of interesting. So I know Tucker thing is cringe, but I just find it interesting just because I had no idea like what it was even like there for the average person. Um, this was a grocery store in. I'm not sure. I'm assuming this is Moscow. But like honestly, it looks pretty much. It's a grocery store. It looks pretty much identical to the ones that we have in at least where I live. Uh, look at those sanctions. Um, to be honest, a lot of that food looks pretty expensive, given how much Russians actually make on average. Like a lot of this stuff looks like real prices, like what I would be paying. Keep in mind a ruble is about a penny. Um, so, I don't know. Food prices seem pretty high, um, to be honest. But no, I just find it interesting looking at this. Like just seeing like look, there's Red Bull, there's Peps, there's Coke. They're equivalent to Coke. There's booze. It's interesting to see that it's just a lot of the people there seem to live at least some more similar than they thought. Just 'cause I've always thought of like Russia as being this like really backward, underdeveloped place where everything was just rotting and falling apart. I think a lot of that stuff has really changed, particularly in the last the last decade or two. Um, no, it's not weird that beer's cheaper than soda. It's just that beer's very heavily taxed. So, actually, let's see the bread section because I love bread. I love baked goods. So let's take a look at the. Also, this place is really clean. I don't know if this is typical for Russian stores, but this place is pretty clean, cleaner than most stuff that I see. Okay, so we got all kinds of breads. It's funny because they even have like those look like the donuts I have at like my local Safeway. Uh, like they look like Safeway donuts. You have the same like those are the same pastries you can buy in North America at any grocery store. You got the stuff like that. Um, we have some Russian peasant bread. That actually looks quite tasty, to be honest. Uh, you have baguettes. I just thought it was interesting just to kind of to look at this, and once again, this could very easily be a grocery store in North America. Um, it really doesn't look that different. They even have like the this kind of the bread aisles that you have. It's interesting. They've probably taken a lot of inspiration from how they're laid out and stuff like this, but it is pretty interesting. Uh, there's not a very good bakery near where I live, unfortunately. That is something that I would really appreciate. It's a whole bunch of different milks. Uh, like, and once again, I mean, here we go. Typical grocery store. Um, Okay, so this is Moscow. Um, like, once again, it looks pretty similar to your average Shoppers Drug Mart or whatever. They have the Old Spice, Head and Shoulders. I've stayed in several Russian cities and towns that I've never seen a dirty household. This is from Traveling with Russell. I know we're off, but I find stuff like this really interesting just because I really have no idea what daily life is like over there. And I think part of the reason that they don't show stuff like this is because it humanizes them. It's because you look at a typical supermarket and you go, oh wow, like the Russians aren't that different from us. Like their stores look pretty much the same as any supermarket. Where I live, we have what are they called? Wow, I can't remember what they're called. Yeah, it just looks like a normal grocery store. All the kind of the same types of things. Some of the brands are a bit different. But the Russians really like their meat. I don't know the cost of living. Food. I think is more expensive in Russia than relatively more expensive than clothing is. Where is this? This is in. I'm just trying to see. Let me see. Where is this? Or is this in Moscow too? Because I'd like to see something outside of Moscow. Grocery store. Okay, so this is Lenta. Let's see, where is Lenta? This is provincial. Where is that? Oh no, okay, it's okay, sorry. The Lenta is the name of the grocery store chain. Does it say? Maybe that's where it is. I feel like a lot of people are very okay. No, that's also that. Okay, I'm not sure if she says where it is. Where is this? I don't see. It doesn't matter. It's not Moscow. So. No, food is cheap in Russia. Okay, that's actually pretty expensive. Wow. I don't know. Prices seem really high there. Like a lot of these prices seem like they're what you get at maybe a dollar store here. Average income is a lot lower in Russia. Russia's going through a lot of yeah, to be fair, Russia is going through a lot of inflation. Part of that is just because the economy is growing, and wages are shooting up. If you have like a massive, well, it's like what happened in the Gulf states. If you suddenly get a whole bunch of money, if there's a bunch of money and there's not as much supply, then stuff is going to go up. Wages have gone up a lot in Russia. The economy is still kind of retuning itself, but once again, with sanctions, if there's a country in the world you think could handle living without sanctions, I think it'd be Russia. I mean, they have massive amounts of farmland, pasture, oil, coal, stuff like that. Also, it's not as if Russia's like some African country. They have lots of industry. They have a highly educated population. Like, once again, you can say a lot about the Soviet Union, and I shit on the Soviet Union all the time. You can't say the Soviet Union wasn't able to do technology. They might not have been able to kind of distribute it en masse, but they built spaceships. They built rockets. They built computers. They built all kinds of stuff. It's my understanding is Russia graduates the same number of engineers as the U.S. does. And I think they're because so China graduates a whole bunch, but I think that in China it's more like a glorified degree. So I think the reason why Americans are so fat is twofold, and other than just basic self-control problems and stuff that we all struggle with. The issue is, the way American cities are built, you have to drive everywhere. And this is compounded by a sense of entitlement, or a sense that it is immoral or plebeian to walk anywhere. Like, I'm not talking about the gay, like you have to be riding your bike to work in -30 weather or stuff like that. But like, there's people who will say, no, I think that's what I've heard, is that the Chinese are fairly, it's lower standards. But anyways, that's a discussion for another time. Anyway, sorry, so getting back to that. So, like, I've seen people say that I will not walk a block to work. I will only drive there. Like, Sir lived 15-minute walk away from his work. He would walk there, and they would make fun of him, and they thought he was a pleb, and they shit on him for in their view, just being inferior to them because he didn't drive his car, like, 5 minutes down the street. Because it does, like, because I live in a city. There's obviously some places I can't walk. I don't own a car personally. I use Uber if I need to go a substantial difference, but you do notice it. Like, even if you're using public transit, you have to walk to the transit station, then you go from the transit station, you have to walk to another place. And that is a lot of exercise. That's just incorporated into part of your day. Like, I walk to work and I walk back from work, and that's half an hour of like, I guess, low intensity exercise, but it's half an hour more I have than if I was driving like 2 minutes to work. And I'm not shitting on people with cars. I think there is an attitude in the U.S. that is unhealthy. And I think, to be fair, and to be completely fair, what some of this comes from is that America has joggers and youth and teams and stuff like that. And people don't want to take public transit, and people don't want to walk outside because the vibrancy will attack them. And I can understand that. I get that if people don't want to take, like, in the New York subways, how they had to send the army in and stuff like that. Like, if you lived in a city with working subways are nice. Like, they're very convenient. You get to places quickly. It's just if you have diversity and no ability to control the diversity, then yeah, you just have issues. The other issue is just food quality. U.S. food quality, I imagine, is shit. Everything I've ever seen is that U.S. food quality is shit. Whenever I've been to Europe, I've just been shocked by how much better the food is there. Uh, like just it just feels like this the basic standards are a lot better. Um, I just yeah, I really kind of doubt it. This is what bananas? How are they getting bananas in Russia? They're is that $1 for that bunch of bananas? That's pretty good. Oh no, high fructose corn syrup is fucking Satan. Um, in Canada, we mostly use, I think, we use sugar beets. I think. I don't know if sugar beets are better, or something like that, but like I just think, from my understanding, food is less processed in America. Also, you had like a decade of just insane, like like nutritionists. Honestly, should a lot of them should be shot. They should shoot a lot of nutritionists because they've done so much harm. Like when they're like, you have to stop using beef tallow, you have to use hydrogenated bullshit oil. You can't use that. You can't use coconut oil. You can't use any of that stuff. Yeah, here we go. I always find these funny. Remember when nutritionists said eggs were bad? Anyone remember that? Um, but isn't this like 100%? That's not the nutritionist. That's the academics. Okay, maybe it is. I apologize if that's not the case. Um, but I don't know. Eggs, my understanding is eggs are one of the healthiest things you can eat. Now, I could be wrong, but my understanding is they're like almost a perfect food. They're high in protein, like good fats. They have all kinds of different nutrients in them. They're quite low calorie, but they're very filling because they're so heavy in protein. Like, most people, I'm sure, could benefit with eating a couple extra eggs a day or a week. Also, they're just delicious. Um, they're just really good. You throw eggs into just about anything and it tastes better. So, well, I eat whole eggs, but yeah. So, anyways, I think that's probably long enough. I just like to thank everybody for joining me. I think we had a lot of fun today. I did break down and cry a little bit for part of it, but there's nothing wrong with some tears over a genuine tragedy. There's nothing wrong with legitimately getting upset, not over some like gay shit, not over they misused your pronouns, but over a generation of men who are going to be sent to the slaughter because Lindsey Graham wants to kill Russians and because Boeing wants to make money. So, God bless everybody. Have a great